Welcome, benvenuto, John Uppgren. Mike Silippo, Boston University, John O'Derna, Manhattan. That was welcome in Italian for those of you who don't know. And this is John Uppgren, again, Tufts University player, coach, MLL champion, lefty, just mean, ended my career at Ithaca as a coach.
I think he just scored against me again.
Yep, against John, multiple goals. John, welcome to the show. Uppy is what we're going to call you because we're friends. So,
yeah, thanks for having me, fellas. It's an honor.
You still riding high after that championship or what?
Yeah, still feels good. I mean, I'm working, so
right.
You know, it's not Disney World. It's not Vegas Suites. It's Excel and Word and Microsoft Outlook. So.
Right. Wow, when you told me you were like, yeah, after work, I was like, really already? Like, didn't you just win? Oh, man, yeah, right back to it. Where are you working?
I'm working at AEW. It's a commercial real estate company in downtown Boston.
All right, well, we'll do the business sector again. We did this with Jimmy Buckets, yeah. Jimmy Burr. How's the Boston commercial real estate scene right now?
I don't know. So, we're landlords, and I cover the Chicago area. Chicago's not doing great. The industrial side's doing great though. So
got it.
Yeah.
Well, sounds like we'll move on. Talk to us about your.
And that was talking business on Back It Up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we should have. So when Kerwin was on, I know you watched the Steals and Deals. We'll have that talking business with Uppgren. It'll be like a 2-minute segment, and we'll just mix it up from time to time. Recurring guest.
It's going great.
Updates on the Midwest industrial real estate market.
It's going great. I don't really want to talk about it.
That's your demo, right?
That's priceless. Well, talk to us about, John, I think we should do Uppy's lacrosse journey backwards. Like, he just won a championship.
Okay.
John, can you do that? I'm not good at math.
I feel like that's like asking somebody to do the alphabet backwards, but yeah, let's try it.
Hey, hopefully you're never put in that position.
Yeah, so 3 days ago now, played in the MLL championship game and won and had a pretty good game. And just capping off a wild week, honestly, nothing that I've ever experienced. No one in the world has really ever experienced this, and it was pretty awesome to be down there. And it took me back, it's kind of fitting we're doing this backwards. It reminded me a lot of recruiting in high school and of camps and youth where you go to this central location and you're with a ton of lacrosse players from wherever, all over the country and all over Canada too.
Right.
And you're just there to play lacrosse, and it was a pretty cool setting, and it was awesome because you get out in between those lines and you're not thinking about coronavirus anymore. You're not thinking about, work. You're not thinking about anything else. You're just playing lacrosse, and it's the same sport that for junior, he's played for probably 35 years now. It was a really nice return to normalcy. My 5th year, I'm a veteran now, which is wild to think. I got drafted by the Cannons in 2016, which is when I graduated from Tufts, and that year I played with guys like Max Sebald and Brody Merrill and Mitch Belisle and Kevin Buchanan. A couple of those dudes are still playing, which is super impressive. But now, that draft class was me and Kyle Jackson and Challen Rogers, and us three are three of the older dudes in that locker room, which is pretty funny to think about.
Yeah.
But
time's undefeated, John.
I know.
Time is undefeated, never loses.
Yeah, except for versus Brady. There's one guy.
Yeah, well, he's in Tampa now. We don't talk about him.
No. And in between that, so, I was never a super consistent lineup guy. Played the last 2 games of my rookie season because I joined in August. The next year I played 4 or 5 games and didn't really do that well. And then at the end of that year, Atlanta was coming to Boston to play Boston in a meaningless, a 2-10 team versus a 1-9 team game. And there were 5 guys flying in from Canada for Atlanta, and Air Canada lost their bags. And so I was driving to Harvard Stadium Friday night for our practice and got tagged in a tweet from LSN that was like at the Real Uppy, like at James Fahey, picked up by the Atlanta Blaze, like off the player pool. And then
you just switched teams.
Yeah. Just switched teams. Ended up playing for Atlanta that night, and then played a couple games for them the next year before coming back to Boston at the end of 2018. And then last year played a decent amount with the Cannons, and then obviously this year. So bit of a journeyman's travel in the MLL for sure. But
well, I feel like you're cheating right now because Mike asked you to go from end to start, and then you kind of jump back to start of MLL career to end. So I guess let's go back some more. Let's get into Tufts then.
Yeah, let's go 2016. That team was nasty, and continue your ridiculous run at Tufts.
Yeah, so 16, my senior year, we were back-to-back national champions going into the year, and we lost in the finals that year, which was brutal. We did play Slippo's Ithaca Bombers squad, number one team in the country, and as was you can look up the box score. I don't know. There's highlights on YouTube. I don't want to pour it on too bad here.
No, we lost. We lost pretty good. I actually sent an email to Coach Daly on the bus thanking him for not making it 25, and sent an email to all of our Ithaca alums saying, I just learned what culture was, and I promise we'll get there. But then Uppy, I took the Boston job, so I didn't get to relive or live up to my word, unfortunately. Eli doesn't let me forget that. Or the fact that I didn't let him cover you. He was pissed that I had him cover Gillespie, who he did shut down. But I'll never live that down. And I screwed up as a coach. Fact. The world. I hope you heard it.
What was the spread on that game? 2 touchdowns?
No, it was like it was the Ithaca guys complaining that they were the away team, even though they're the number one team in the country.
Yes, that was the spread. Correct. Well, what's beautiful, if you ever, like, Jeff Long is the most beautiful human being in the world. If you haven't spent good time with him, his interview at the end, somebody brings up like, oh, number one in the country. He goes, I think you can see who was number one in the country today, man. Those rankings, like, no one pays attention to those. We saw who's number one, and it was just like perfect because that's the truth. Like, who cares about rankings and what LSN or whoever else comes out with? Like, you proved it that day. More horses in the barn, he said.
Yeah. No, I mean, we had a stacked team that year, and like that kid Jake had 92 points as a midi, like a legitimate midfielder.
Right. After being a D midi, right? Like, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he's a transition guy. Our sophomore year, and then junior year, he's like a wing and D midi, but it was like if he's on offense, let him stay on the field.
Right.
And then senior year, it was going to be the same thing, and he had a hat trick in the first 3 games. We're like, well, maybe you should just play O.
Coach Dales.
He might be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
seriously.
Yeah, lost the finals my senior year. We won in 2015. We beat Lynchburg, and had, a pretty up and down year actually. Like the NESCAC that year was very tough. We had Amherst, Bates, and Mid and us all made the tournament, and the NCAA created the NESCAC bracket again in the NCAA tournament, which is ridiculous, but it's a story for another day.
Yeah, it's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the NCAA D3 tournament. It's classic. Keep going.
Yeah.
By the way, John, you had one of my favorite goals I've ever seen in that Lynchburg National Championship game. The one where you posted up and shot it over your upfield shoulder. That was pretty creative.
Yeah, that was, what's cool in the NESCAC is that we don't have coaches at fall ball. So, like, you get to try some pretty stupid stuff while you're out there at captain's practice, and no one's going to yell at you for trying that stuff. And that fall especially, I remember kind of trying out some, like, pretty wild shots and just seeing what was working. That shot, like, I took that shot in the first quarter, and it was, like, atrocious. It went, like, parallel to the net from the island. Like, the refs had to meet and be like, was that a pass or a shot? Like, I don't know. So
hopefully the highlight video left that off, so I've only seen the goal.
social media engine that we have,
That's
making
right.
the O look good.
That's right.
And
It's
then
electric jumbo TV.
Yeah.
it is. It's very good production. I like very,
Yeah,
very good production.
revolutionized the game for lacrosse videos, period. But
Yeah.
another episode for another time. We could go all day about that.
Yeah. And then so 2014 was the first national championship. That year, I don't know if it's still like the record, but we set a record for most goals scored in any division in the season. I mean, that year was kind of like the invention of fire, I guess, for how fast that we ended up playing the next. Now it's been 6 years, 7 years, and just kind of we never really realized how good we were, but we kept rolling teams, and eventually beat a very good Salisbury team in the finals. Yeah, and I mean my recruiting. So like to keep working backwards, like my journey to Tufts was not very straightforward. And we were talking about Jumbo's Lax TV and like those videos from like 2010 with like Sean Kerwin, like scoring 5 goals, just dunking on the crease, and like Kevin McCormick and like DJ Hessler and Ryan Malloy and those guys. Like that's how I first figured out about Tufts, but I was very, very under recruited, I should say. And that was back when you really had one summer. Like everyone was, the top guys were probably committing in September and October, but everyone else was, June. Right. Like you figure out what you're doing and then you commit. And I didn't commit to Tufts until August before my senior year. And the only other schools I was really considering were Rutgers and Drexel. So I had some like funny emails from that like whole summer, like a certain, actually from 2 PLL coaches, funny enough, like one of them, like, yeah, you're not good enough to like play at the school. Like, sorry. It was an interesting recruiting like experience. And what's cool is, and I think we did a good job of that at Tufts, like while I was a player. And then even when I was coaching, is trying to find those guys that are kind of lacrosse junkies and might be a little bit of hidden gems. We're like weirdly not beating out Amherst or Middlebury or Williams a ton for recruits. Like we get beat on those recruits often, I would say, but we do a really good job of identifying the character kids and culture kids. And I think that's sort of been the secret sauce at Tufts for a while. And then, so like from my high school background, I actually went to boarding school in Connecticut. I went to Choate, played hockey, football, and lacrosse there, 3 helmet sports.
Nice. So, old school banger.
Yeah. Yeah. And like for people who don't know, like I grew up in Minnesota. So like I was skating when I was 2, probably before I could walk. I had a pair of skates on my feet. And then my dad started a lacrosse program when I was in 4th grade in my town. And so that was my first introduction to lacrosse. And so that's kind of the journey from.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's you're the first. I don't think you're going to be the last. So we're going to make go backwards. I liked it, John.
It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like you're a Tufts guy. Mike's an Ithaca guy. I'm a Gettysburg guy. So if anyone could go end to start, it's you on this call.
Yes. Well, and it's a D3 guy. Let's be honest. Let's circle the wagons.
Yes. Student athletes.
That's right. Circle the wagons. That's right. Essays. That's right, baby. That's awesome, John. Well, again, congrats on an awesome career. As you said, sorry you lost the game. I'm going to be frank. After getting pounded, I was in Philly when you guys lost. So I wasn't upset, to be frank. But, now that I know you, I'm upset that I wasn't upset. And congrats again on the MLL championship to make up for it.
I don't know, Mike.
Yes,
I could see you being like rooting hard, like having like your jumbo foam head on your head, being like, I want them to win. So I could be like, we were number 2 in the country, even though we lost by 10.
Yeah. No, I'm not a very good loser, John. I think you know that.
I'm aware. I've lived it.
Yeah, no doubt. Not many times, but let's get back to John. Let's get back to Uppy. Well, that's awesome, man. So talk to us more about what you were saying, just that MLL experience. Like no one else got to really experience this. You guys were the first bubble to really be successful outside the Euro soccer leagues. But I also want to touch base on how, like, I want you to dive into what you're talking about, like getting back to normalcy, like getting to like forget about the madness that's been going on since March here, and just, you know, you can do it front to back, back to front, middle out, however you want to talk about it.
Dealer's choice here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll start just like, I mean, we like March, obviously when college lacrosse shut down and like everything shut down essentially. Like Coach Quirk was like reaching out, like, guys, will keep you updated, but obviously like we have no idea like what's gonna happen. And at first it's like hopefully we can have regular season, and then it was like maybe we push the season back, and then it became, you know, it's most likely looking like a tournament at this point. And so it was a pretty tight time window between when they announced and when everything got set in motion. So they announced they were doing this tournament, and everyone had to get tested basically the week after that. And then the week after that was you're going down and playing. And as far as the bubble and the whole event, it was, you know, really, really exceptional the way they treated us. I mean, we stayed at like the West Inn in Annapolis, which is a really nice hotel. The food they served us was unbelievably good and better than I would have ever expected, honestly, especially like after seeing the NBA food and like some of that stuff.
Right.
I mean, they were like anything we needed they were taken care of, which is really great. And the front offices, especially like the Cannons, like support staff, did an unreal job getting us, you know, you don't like, you know, the seafood they're serving tonight, like let me go run and pick something up for you, or like let me call something in, like you're not paying for this. So we were treated very well. And yeah, it felt eerily similar to like summer lacrosse camp, and just you're seeing guys that you played against 5 years ago, you're seeing guys that you played with. Like I'd like run into Burr like in the lobby and like then go watch him score a couple goals, and it was just really cool to be able to like catch up with people that normally you wouldn't be able to. And then like you said, slips, like, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I feel like it was like Champ Camp with a hospitality tent.
Yeah, the heat was there too. Like the 120-degree Homewood turf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. Melt your cleats. How you doing?
My cleats, in the first half of that championship game, my cleats ripped. Like the sole came off one of my shoes.
Wow. Makes for a better story. Sign it. Sell it.
Sideline swap.
Just yeah. Hey. Well, talk to us about the championship game. Well, I mean, like, you rise to the occasion, and I actually almost took a screenshot. The Tufts, they put something out about you, and like the second bullet was like, rises to the occasion in big games, and it said no, and I wanted to comment, I'm like, I think you meant yes, and this is a typo. But you know, I got to get approval from John before I tweet or Insta anything. So you should check on that.
Yeah. The championship game, like, as far as playing in it, it was really nice for me to like have experience playing in big games. Like I've been there, and it was, you know, from that, like the last championship game we played in, like I got stuffed with like 5 seconds left and we lost. And so like, there's like part of me that's always been like, I'd love like another chance to like, not like to F myself like mentally a little bit. But you know, Coach Dales would always tell us before the games, like, you never know when you get another shot at this. And like, it is what it is. Like, you go play for 2 hours and you either are a champion or you lost. And like, you got to live with that for the rest of your life. And so just being like present and like not thinking too much about it and just saying like, you know what, I'm going to max out this opportunity, and whatever happens, happens. But like, I'm not going to overthink this or overlook it. Like, I'm just going to go out and play as hard as I can. I think that was huge.
What was it like having the so unique for an MLL season to be sort of like consecutive, like 8 days in a row, right? What was that like compared to, you said you're a journeyman, you've been around the block in the league. So what was like a consecutive 8-day season rather than like a weekly show up, walk through, play a game season?
Yeah, there's definitely like pros and cons. I mean, obviously like the 2 practices and then right into games, like, and I think you could tell with like Connecticut and even us, like we were still getting used to playing with each other like 3 games into the season. And
Right.
And so like the chemistry isn't as much there as it would be if you had 2 full weekends of training camp, and then you could have practices before every game like we normally do. The conditioning, like, I think guys honestly were in much better shape than like most people realize, because the number one thing that leads to major injury is fatigue, and there weren't any major injuries, at least that I saw all week. And so I was impressed by that. But the Friday game in the championship game, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't sucking wind every time I came off the field after like 45 seconds.
Right.
I mean, the heat was definitely a major factor in that as well. So the nice part about it was not traveling, to be honest, and not, flying in Friday night and having a walkthrough, and then trying to do a walkthrough Saturday morning and then playing and then flying on Sunday. That can wear on guys a lot, I think, especially over the course of a summer when, your buddies are in the Hamptons or doing whatever they do. And then especially like when I was coaching, it was, go play a game, and it wasn't fly home and sit in air conditioning. It was, fly to Frederica, Delaware, and sit in a lawn chair for 10 hours.
Right. Yeah.
Mikey, do you want to pull up if we can see any of the clips from that game?
Yeah. We like to consider ourselves a small business operation, right? Mom and pop shop.
Blue collar, hard hat operation.
Yeah.
Brick by brick.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Brick by brick. Here it is. So this is the first one.
Yeah.
What happened?
Ball went in the net.
Yeah, that's how he drew it up. Wow. That's
the point. Epic. The point of the game is to score more goals than the other team.
Yeah.
So,
it doesn't matter how it gets there. It's just got to go in. Yeah.
There's normally no. It bounced off his helmet and went in.
It's back of his helmet right here, John.
Yep. Yeah, if you believe in omens, it's a good sign. But
yeah, I'd say so.
This is just a hustle play by Mark. Getting his rebound twice essentially, and in those scramble situations, it's really just, as an offensive player, you just want to find space, right? And then my guy actually crashes down to Mark, and I end up open at 7 yards, which is a pretty good spot to be on the field.
Quick release. Yeah.
I feel like that could have been in a Tufts highlight video with the amount of, like, you guys are all about the loose balls.
Yeah. Just the unsettled. I mean, even this one right here too.
Right.
Especially late in the week, there are going to be a lot more of these like broken plays. Right. And I thought we actually did a very good job taking advantage of that. And I think like this first quarter, besides that Ben Spencer goal, in my like lucky bounce, everything was broken.
Right.
Well, it's funny. We had, like we said, we had Shawnee on, and he that's Coach Kerwin for those of you who don't know. And he was like, Dales would be like, our best man up play is a ground ball scrum, and then we end up scoring. And it's just like, you move it off the line, and defense gets aggressive.
Ground ball to midline, best offensive play.
Yeah. Oh, so that's real. He says that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get him on. Coach Daly, I'm coming for you. I got your number. I'm coming for you.
That was a bomb, this shot.
Oh, yeah, Jesus.
So that's Justin Pugel from Stony Brook, who he was actually up in Boston rehabbing his torn ACL towards the end of June. And we would go out to Tufts and shoot, and Nick would stand in net for those. I'm like, what are you doing, man? How do people play goalie at this level?
Yeah, time, room, get out of the way.
And look at that placement.
Yeah, exactly. Off stick hip, right? Off stick knee.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. That was his first professional goal too.
Wow.
Perfect swim. Right. Wow. Nice backhand feed. Again, you practice all this creativity you talked about. I mean, we had Ryder Garnsey on. Yep. And this is you're practicing a little swim on the wing, keeping it in your hand, backhand head down, right? Just trusting it. Awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, it's really cool, playing in the MLL. You get to see a bunch of guys in different styles of playing and how they do things. And so Kyle Jackson and Markey and Riley O'Connor and Chow, like all those Canadian guys, like they're not going righty there. Like
Right.
any American is probably going right-handed there. But
Right.
I'm not the 6'3", 4'5", 40 American midi.
That's okay though, but you practice that. I guess is what I was trying to get at. Like in the fall, when Coach Dales isn't around and Coach Holman, I can't remember who, or was it Kerwin? Did you play for? Who was your offensive coordinator at the time?
Yeah, Coach Holm recruited me, but like I had SK is my coach.
SK, like it. We're getting new nicknames here, and you got to practice that then. That's awesome. And this is just being gritty and from Minnesota and tough.
D3 blue collar NESCAC product.
I love how you added the NESCAC in there. That's perfect.
Tough state.
Blue collar.
Yeah.
Tough state.
The U.
Uppy, very nice. So was this the 5th right here? This is the
that was
capstone?
4. That was 4. That was a big one for us.
This was absurd.
That was
run that back. The Cochran one was absurd. Watch him pick this up.
Oh wow. Sick hands.
Yeah. And I mean that's the other thing with these guys too. Like that pass where I throw that into him, he's objectively covered, but
right.
Like his hands are so good that he's open.
Right.
The indoor guys they play a different game.
Yeah.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
Bad approach, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that for me too, like that's the stuff that I've got to win on. I've got to win on bad approaches and ball movement and a little bit out thinking people, less outrunning them, so to speak.
Well, it's actually a perfect one to end on because I think it's a concept that I've been coaching a bunch of youth kids that they don't understand. It's like when this defender is here, he has a rule based on the ball being here, and then he has to approach you. It's like your teammates are doing the work for you to get that approach, and then you just take advantage of it. You don't do some fancy move. You don't back up and square them up and go. You just catch, show a little fake opposite way. You don't even. You just go strong, hard, blue collar, tough state to my left hand, turn the corner, turn and rake high dunk. So simple.
I mean, and there's an extra defender back. Like the net is an obstacle that those D guys have to navigate. And, like for me, when I was still developing and getting better, like I remember watching when I was really young, watching the Mikey Powell highlights and him finalize everyone. I was like, I really want to do that, but I'm not as quick as Mikey Powell. So like you have to take bits and pieces there. And I remember watching like Ned Crotty did when he was at Duke still, like he did like dodging from X like video with, I'm sure it was like Clark or Quint or someone. Right. He's like, I always change directions one step beyond directly at X because then the defender has to navigate the net.
Right. And
so for a guy like me has good change of direction maybe, but isn't the fastest guy, like that was something that I latched onto and was like, all right, I'm going to practice that. And then like watching Mark Matthews and like Lyle, who only use their dominant hand, really, like they very rarely go off. I mean, Mark never goes offhand, and Lyle in college maybe did, but definitely not anymore. Mm-hmm. And just seeing how they use their body to protect their stick, even though maybe their stick is upfield of where their body is when it should be like away from the defender. So just picking up little things and just piecing it together of what can I use, that really helped.
I think that's really cool. I think that's, obviously you're a break guy. You went to Tufts. I think that's probably your biggest strength is being aware of like your abilities, right? I feel like some guys, like, I'm not Brody Merrill. If I was like, I'm going to be exactly Brody Merrill as a defenseman, well, I'm probably setting myself up to be disappointed. I think that's where that's such an important skill for guys to have, is to be aware of what you're good at, what you're not good at, like what do I need to work on and what could work for me. I think that's just important as a player to develop.
Yeah, and just go try
who you are.
And go try it. Like it doesn't hurt to go try backhanded shots or behind the back shots or one-handed shots. And like if you're good at it and it feels comfortable, then like you can keep trying it. And if you suck at it, like, okay, maybe that's not for you. And like maybe you need to pick something else up or figure out how to make it work. I think, like people like everyone's like doing the backhand and stuff now that Lyle started, and like I don't know if there's enough practice going into it. I think people just kind of see it and are like, this would be sick, but
Right.
you got to play it to your strengths. You got to use it with your strengths.
Right.
That's right. Yep. No, it's important understanding your role, but also what you're capable of doing. But then to your point and to Ryder's point, it's like, if you want to get good at it, then practice it. It's like, like doing the backhand, like you said, Lyle, and a lot of Native Americans and Canadians use. It's like, yeah, because they practice that, and, us silly Americans just want to try and throw it out there because it looks great on Jumbo's TV. It's like, why don't you go practice it, and then develop that in your game.
I think you also you earn that leash a little bit too, right? Like if you do that stuff and have success, I'm sure like the first time you scored a backhand goal at Tufts, Coach Daly was like, no, okay. And then like you started doing it more and more. No, he was just like, never do that.
No, it was like, hey, the ball went in the net. Like, if you do it 10 times a game and you get stuffed every time, that's a no-go. But I mean, like, I always tell him and like tell people like I went to the perfect program to like play the way I played, because it was never like don't go behind the back or like why aren't you shooting like lefty righty down the alley. It was just play your strengths, whatever works. And so some of that stuff, like as long as I was practicing it, it's fine. Like I never got like like what are you doing or anything like that. We would get grilled for throwing skips off our back foot. Like we would get grilled for not going two hands on a ground ball, like through traffic. But, as far as like the shooting and passing, the creativity was just given to the players. And that was really cool.
Awesome. I kind of wanted to segue into like back into Tufts a little bit, because you touched a little bit of like the secret sauce and recruiting guys that are lax junkies, and I think that you have a super unique perspective as a guy that played there and coached there. Like, what do you attribute? And obviously, we spoke with Casey, but I'd love to hear your perspective on it too. Like, what do you attribute the like year-to-year success now? Like, once guys are there, how do you describe the way that you guys have been able to be successful, obviously long term?
I mean, I think it's culture, and I think it was taken so seriously. Like even when I got there, it wasn't even like a question. Like it was just there, and seniors mentoring freshmen and people supporting each other and working hard. And like it was, kind of get with it or like get left behind in essence. And it's been that way, even Coach D, like when he was at Tufts, that was kind of the start of the building of that culture that ultimately paid off in 2010, and then has just kept building and building from there. And at this point, it's just small little tweaks and, how can we challenge these guys a little bit more? But I think it was just started with Coach Dales and his leadership and like the program that he wanted to build. And then by the time I got there, it was just, sort of given. And like you knew that you were supported, and there were great leaders on the team and great leaders in the coaching staff. And as you got older and older, you took on more responsibility in that leadership block and in mentoring people under you and setting the standards with hard work and caring, I guess, since I can't swear, like give a shit factor. It's at this point, it's I think one of the most unique things about Tufts, and probably the number one thing I'd attribute to why it's been consistent over the last 10 years now.
Right. Yeah, and you got to give credit to the guys. I know it gets talked about a lot, but for anybody that sees this that doesn't know anything about Tufts, I think you got to give a lot of credit to the guys that took that initial leap of faith, right? I mean, in 2006, the idea of winning a national championship was literally probably funny, right? And now look where we are 15 years later. Like, those guys deserve so much credit for starting that. Somebody had to start that.
Yeah, and like it's funny because like for us as guys who played there, like those dudes are legends to us. So like guys like Jordan Yarborough and Eitan Saperstein and like Mikey Drosh and Matt Callahan and like all those like 07, 08, like original Jumbo's Lax TV guys, like are legends to us because we know that they're the ones who started that. And
Right.
like that I'm not sitting on Jumbo's Lax TV like in 2014. Like I don't have, like sick Nike uniforms or socks or like fresh balls at practice every day, like without those guys sacrificing and making a commitment to better the program. And so it's really cool. And hopefully, I know when I was there, at least both playing and coaching, like that respect was there, and like hopefully that stays forever. And I think it's it like helps the younger guys understand what they're a part of. It. It's just much bigger than yourself. Like, yeah, it's great if you like are in YouTube scoring goals, but like that doesn't happen without A, like working hard and buying into the program, and B, like people who have allowed you to be able to do that.
Right.
It's awesome.
Very
It's
cool.
it is so cool, and it's so entrenched in all of Tufts culture and what you guys do, from Coach Daly to Coach D'Onofrio, all the assistants that have been there. It's certainly real. You can see it. It's hard to define it, but you can see it, and it's so cool to hear every Tufts guy talk about it in the same way. Like you all have the same type of response, and how you said like they paved the way for you guys, and then you paved the way for the next generation, and they'll pave the way for the next generation. And that's why there's a ton of Tufts fans at Philly when you guys are winning natties, and there's that stadium rocks when you're beating the Bombers, and Coach Silippo, and it's awesome, Uppy. It's awesome, and congrats on an amazing career, both as a college athlete, as a student athlete, excuse me, and as a professional.
Thank you. Yeah, student athlete, blue collar, NESCAC guy.
Well, John, this was awesome having you on. As always, Mikey, special to spend some time with you, especially during this quarantine. I've gotten to see plenty of you. Really appreciate you, though. It was really cool to get some insight into, one, being a college lacrosse champion and coach at the highest level of college lacrosse. Well, coach
the
at
SEC,
the
SEC
level.
of Division III lacrosse.
There you go.
That's it.
The SEC
That's it.
of Division III lacrosse, and then ultimately turn that into an MLL championship this summer. That was cool to watch. So we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, fellas, thanks for having me. A lot of fun.